Hi, Julie. Welcome to the Retail Whore Podcast.
Hi, Michelle. So good to see you.
You too. I will say I'm a little bit not out of sorts. I feel like I'm out of practice because I've been on show mode set up for what feels like the last 4 months. So I've conducted probably one interview in the last 2 months. So if I'm off, everyone, I'm just
Great.
telling you why.
Oh, that's okay. This is my first podcast interview. So,
Is it really?
yeah.
I would thought for sure you'd be interviewing all the time.
No, not yet. I've got a couple other things lined up for later in the year. So I'll just hone my skills with you.
I'm very excited. Well, you are the retail group editor for Gift Shop Plus magazine,
Mhm.
museums, and more, as well as stationary trends, which I believe just came out, correct?
Yes. Stationary Trends and Gift Shop just dropped like within the last 2 weeks. People should have gotten them
We're going to talk a
in
little bit about that, but
mailboxes.
I want you to tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your role with Gift Shop Plus and the other editorials.
Okay. Um, So I am the editor-in-chief of Gift Shop Plus magazine, and I'm also the co-owner of the company, Great American Media Services. And we have a publishing company that publishes about 16 titles, and they're all business to business, and they're in uh, different fields. So we have agriculture, horticulture, sports, retail, and so we started out in agriculture, but we've diversified into some other industries. And I pretty much head up the retail division, which is Gift Shop Plus and Stationary Trends. And there's been a few other titles that have come and gone within the retail scope. And right recently, in the last like 2 years ago, we folded museums and more into Gift Shop, and hence the plus that we added onto the Gift Shop title. There was just so much crossover in museums and more, because that goes to, like hospital gift shops and zoos and aquarium gift shops, museum gift shops. And really it was all covering the same sort of items and editorial content. So I feel like we're lean and mean right now as far as those two titles in the retail realm.
It feels like the publication will be much more chock full of information,
Mhm.
combining the two.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and I think the retailers like it. The museums and more side is a little bit more, covers more of this, little more of the souvenirs and customized items, like name dropping and custom labeling and things like that. And the gift side has more of the home decor.
I was introduced to you. Well, you reached out to me, it was 2 years ago, I think, and I did an article for you guys on merchandising, and then you were nice enough to reach out again in the holidays, and my article was in the last holiday. Someone is ringing my doorbell. This is okay. Well, this is a first. I'm gonna put this on hold for a moment. Oh my God. Okay, Catherine, you're gonna have a little bit of editing because I didn't plan on that little interruption. Okay, so I was lucky enough to have been included in the last episode, the last publication for the holiday, which I'm so honored. And I will tell you, like, before I was involved, before you included me in that, I love your magazine. Like, I will say, like, one of my favorite things from I'm trying to think for which one it was, but you had such a beautiful layout for gift trends, and it was like, I'm very visual. So for inspiration, the way I find inspiration is always magazines, which is why I was so excited to have you on this, because it's like, to me, I know everyone's all new school and like the whole PDF, like everything's on. I can't do online. Like I'm tactile. I need to feel it, touch it, cut it out, like post it somewhere. Your layout was so beautiful, and I was so impressed. And the fact that you are not only the editor, you're the owner, like how did that end up happening? And how, because I don't know if how many people know that not a lot of publications are privately owned. Like
Right.
Hearst Company, like,
Mhm.
I mean, they're a big company, and you do not have
Yeah.
just one magazine, you have several. So tell me a little bit of
Yeah.
how that happened.
Yeah. Um, we're very grassroots. And personally, I always wanted to make magazines. I, like you, am very visual. I was constantly making up, cutting out pictures and making layouts and making my own magazines. And that was just what I wanted to do. And at the time, there wasn't really, a path for that. So, and I was a decent writer, so I decided to go into journalism and got my journalism degree. But I specialized in design and everything. So I started out in the daily newspaper world, and then I married my college sweetheart, and we bought into a business that did trade publication for agriculture just in Michigan. And so we bought into that, and then took that over, and then over the years, and that was almost 30 years ago.
Wow.
uh, yeah, so I know it. I still feel like a young person, and now I'm like, I look at those numbers, I'm like, that can't be right, and I check my math. No, yes, Julie, you are old now. It has
You're
been
not.
30 years.
You're not.
Yeah. So it's just grown. We knew that was our niche, was business to business and publications. And then we just kept finding, holes and needs that were out there in different industries, and had to diversify. There's been years when the agriculture industry has tanked, and we would need to rely on other areas, to carry us. So it's I think it's a good mix that we have. So everything kind of carries everything else through the ups and downs in the industries, because trade publications are really dependent on the industry themselves. Like, if there's like recession or something, and
Or
no one's,
pandemic.
yeah, yeah, right. Things can change in the blink of an eye, as we've all learned. So
How I know we've talked in the past, and I know I asked because when the pandemic happened, to me, a lot of the magazines seem like they're on somewhat shaky ground because everybody's gone online, and because buying a magazine is not what everybody does anymore. And I remember when we were going into this pandemic, and I remember when everything was shut down, including, printing houses. I
mhm.
remember, and I was starting to panic, like, because I go out and buy like a stack like that big of magazines, like
Mhm.
international, and everything from food to fashion to
Yeah.
gardening, like you name it. Like because everything gives me inspiration. And I remember there's one newsstand open in Malibu, and I remember driving from my house in Redondo to Malibu just to go buy magazines. And you could see it was starting to get leaner and leaner and leaner. And
Yeah.
then there was nothing. And you knew what was happening, but for you on your end, what did that look like when everything comes to a halt, and you still
Mhm.
are we producing a magazine? Are we not? Like, what does that look like?
Right. Pretty much for all of our brands, we didn't stop working because pretty much all of us are of the journalism background, and there was a lot of news to report, and then on the retail side of things, there was a lot of information to get out about PPP, and like when you could open your stores, and what kinds of measures you had to take, and then but even backed up a little bit before that, just owners of businesses were trying to figure out the whole buy something on Instagram or Facebook and ship it out themselves. They couldn't have employees come in, but a lot of times the business owners were in
Yeah.
their shops, packing things up and sending them. So we felt it, we felt that it was our place and our duty to, get as much information out there. Now, granted, we had to do it digitally, but we were set up for that. So we went out with a Thrive, what did we call it? survive and thrive kind of guide for retailers. We didn't put any advertising in it. It was a digital only send that we sent to our, our mailing list, with just information like that retailers would need to get through.
Wow, that's amazing. Because I remember I'm not a retailer, and the people that I work for were not really looking to PP the loans yet, and stepping back, it's like, where did you get that information? I didn't realize that's what you guys had turned it into, as like an information hub of like, this is what you need. Because I mean, I would assume all retailers were like, after you come out of the fog of like, oh my God, we're closed. Like, what now? What do we do? I mean, that must have been amazing, as well as it must have felt really good to do, like just as that fulfillment.
Oh yeah. And I love telling the retailer stories and the makers stories. And there were so many great stories that came out of that, of just people being so resilient and figuring out how to get by and learn. I mean, so many of our readership were just kind of stuck in the headlights for a while about getting their shops online, having an online presence and taking orders and that sort of thing. Some made it, there were some didn't, but a lot of people had to adapt, and we did too. And then when we did come back, they were smaller issues, because there were a lot of the companies that were our normal advertisers they just put a stop on a lot of things like advertising. And then it turned into they didn't know if they could get the product because, it was all sitting out, in shipping containers. So it was a rough couple of years for that, just so many ups and downs, but I feel like we're starting to come back. And then, in a lot of things, like everybody, we started doing things that we're going to keep doing. Maybe we didn't do them before, maybe, but it's working. So, we're going to keep up doing more digital products and keeping like the news cycle a little fresher, as far as like when we update, the news on our website and things like that, where it might have used to been, maybe weekly or, monthly. That wasn't really the focus. That's definitely more important to us now.
So your publication is quarterly, correct? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. And
like the print version is quarterly. Yes.
Tell everyone a little bit about Gift Shop Plus and what is included in it in your quarterly, because you like I said, you just put out that, and Stationary Trends looks amazing, and I heard it's one of your favorite issues. So tell everyone a little bit about that, because I don't know how many retailers know about it and how to get a hold of the publication. And I know that they're available at the shows and whatnot, but by the time I get to them, they're always gone. So tell everyone a little bit about like what is included in these magazines and what you cover. And
sure. So Gift Shop Plus is like you said, it's quarterly, and then we've added some new niche publications in between those times. So we've got a holiday shop, these special editions just come out once a year in between the normal seasonal quarters. Waterfront living, saw a need for that wasn't necessarily being covered, everything coastal and lake, and that's just a
big one,
huge category. Celebrations and occasions for the party industry, that's really taken off, I think, with home entertaining and balloons and everything wanting to be Instagram worthy when you throw a party. And then also the guide is a sort of a product, it's just a product guide, mostly, not as much editorial, just products in all the categories. And then we have Stationary Trends, and that is quarterly, and that is all print. We also, when we do a print issue, we also make it available digitally. So some people can choose. Maybe they don't want the print magazine. They can just get it digitally. And we can also share that digital edition much further,
Yeah.
broader reach when it's digital. So that's pretty much the two retail magazines. Stationary Trends covers it covers greeting cards, invitations, journals, notebooks, desk accessories, anything like a really cool card shop or paper shop. And even a lot of gift shops carry a lot of stationery and cards.
It's a big
So,
category, boy.
and we actually, that's one of our original publications that we started from scratch. And Sarah Schwartz was the original editor and still is. And I'm super proud of the following she's created. And she has some really loyal fans. And I say fans because they love her, and she has her finger on the pulse of that industry. She really is a great trend spotter, and yeah, I can't speak highly enough of her. She's great. We've worked together now for a little over 15 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, she's very talented.
Let me ask you a question on the guide. So when it's covering products. So how, like in any magazine that covers products, like how do you go through that and decide what you're going to cover? And then do you have it broken down in, these are our favorite tabletop items, these are our favorite, like how does that look and how does that work?
Okay, well, the guide specifically is a paid model.
Mhm.
So to get in that, you buy an ad, and then you get like 8 listings in the different product categories, which we've determined. And then they send us their products, and then we'll do like the write-up on it and that sort of thing. In the regular edition, though, companies will buy advertising, and then that determines how much editorial we can put in. Now, the editorial is free, and that's like the articles, the product showcases, any of the trend reports, that sort of thing. We determine that. But it's kind of a how should I say, like the business model is very reciprocal. So, I always try to, and it's a business to business. If I was like a daily newspaper, I would try not to have any interaction with the advertising, but in the trade publications, you do. And so like if someone's partnering with us in their marketing, I'm going to try my best to include some of their products.
Yeah.
In the editorial, but that doesn't mean everybody in the editorial is an advertiser. I reach out for companies that are telling the story that I'm trying to tell in the article. If it's something about sustainable textiles or something like that, I'm going to reach out to the companies that I think fit that story to be sources. So I do try to keep it separate as much as possible. And we go for a 50-50 ratio. So, if we have 50 pages of ads, we'll have 50 pages of editorial. And that's just the basic standard formula for any magazine, really.
I wondered how that worked. Cause I think even when you're advertising, I think it's a great opportunity, obviously, to show off what you're doing and, for them to post their brand new introductions. I mean, especially in this industry, it's like twice a year, it's all the new introductions. So it's like, what better time to advertise and show your new introductions and for all the retailers to see it.
Right. And I don't know where they, there's companies out there that don't believe in advertising or don't ever advertise in the trades. And I'm not sure where they think people are going to see them, but companies have choices, it's a competitive market out there. There's a lot of different places that they can spend those kind of marketing dollars, whether it's in like trade show guides or signage, or a lot of people are going with influencers now. And that's a whole nother topic.
That's my next question. is because in the world, everyone is using influencers. And I think honestly, in the retail world, and most of the people that listen to us, there's a few people that do work with influencers. And I think for them, by far and large, though, it's like a lot of things that blew up during the pandemic. It's where a lot of retailers are like, how does this work? I don't. So how does it work? You know, retail, one of my clients who's been on Lit Concept has been very smart how she uses influencers. She's paired up with, I think it's Whitney Cummings, that she came in, picked out items from their store, and she took them to her house. They're an antique store, and they set them up. And Whitney posts every day from this one mirror that came out of their store. And she said the volume of people who are Whitney's generation, because this is an antique store that's been in business for 45 years. The son took it over from his father. So it is an old school, an older clientele, but this pairing with an influencer has brought in a whole new generation of people who have never seen the store, who aren't interested or weren't interested in antiques. So what does influencer look like on a publication end?
I basically what they're doing is what we want to do too. You know, we would like to be seen as an influencer. And so we're having to change our ways a little bit about how we're doing things so that we can be seen as an influencer. I mean, that's basically what editors have been doing, you know, for 100 years, you know, is telling people what they like and the benefits of a certain thing and why you should try it, you know, or buy it. So it's just a different channel, I think. And we need to, and that's something we're working on, you know, we need to sell ourselves as influencers too.
I wonder if it as I wonder if it has to be a face of something. That's why I always wonder, because everyone has that connection to somebody. I think it should be you.
Yeah. I've been told that, but I'm struggling. I'm trying to get out of my shell a little bit. And, you know, I don't know if it's just, you know, my era or generation or whatever. It's hard, you know, to get in front of the camera and to be that face. It's really hard, but I think that's what people expect, you know, nowadays. They want the person behind it. Used to be you didn't want anybody to, you know, like your job was behind the scenes, you know, and you just wanted to put it out on the pages. But for better or worse, now everybody wants to know who you are. And
it's a connection. I think that people, it's like, who, you know, who's Julie? Like, what is she talking about in this world? That's why I want to meet with you and have you on. It's there. I think for anybody that listens, or especially now, because we're all dialed into our phone 24/7, it's like, oh, there's so-and-so, she's talking about this, and there's that. And that's one thing I try and one thing that the pandemic did do was literally force people's hand of like, okay, you're either going to get really uncomfortable, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, or you're just not going to do it. And I think that a lot of what we saw in the retail atmosphere is a lot of the people that were not comfortable, the older generation that didn't have somebody younger doing their social media, or didn't have social media at all. Like that is literally what changed people's businesses then. And for those who jumped, I've one of the people, our first interview, Kingfisher Road, mother-daughter team, they reacted so fast. They were doing lives like within days of the closure, and they've talked about changing things. How you said you've kept some things that you know work. They have kept doing lives, like they're like TikTok, and it's hilarious because her mom is my age and she's, you know, now on TikTok. And I mean, but talk about embracing it. And I think that for like yourself, it's like you're natural in front of the camera. And I think that people want to know who you are. And I think that only leads to more people following you and what you're saying, or what anybody's brand is saying.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And I will take that to heart and just put it all out there now.
I've asked you in the past, and I'm going to ask you again because you just got back from Atlanta. Part of my favorite thing about the walking the shows, and I'm chomping at the bit to get onto the show floors, and because I've been in setup. You've walked Atlanta. Tell me about some of your favorite things you saw. Tell me about some of the things that you were kind of a surprise. Like, just take us through Atlanta through your eyes.
Uh-huh. Okay. I loved being there. It was great to do the market unmasked.
Oh God, yeah.
It was busy and fun, and people were having a good time again. It was really great. It made my heart happy. Was it as busy as pre-pandemic days? No, but honestly, I thought it was that made it a little bit easier to get around. I mean, it wasn't like a desert or anything. I thought it was nice traffic, and I got a lot of positive feedback. Okay, so as far as trends go, okay, I jotted things down here so I would. My biggest takeaway from this market, and I kind of titled it because I'm just like a writer, was nature and nurture. I just felt like there was a big emphasis on taking care of the earth, taking care of each other, and taking care of ourselves.
Love that.
And it was prevalent everywhere. I thought a lot of natural textures and materials I thought it was a lot about. I mean, I just wanted to touch everything. A lot of terracotta with interesting glaze techniques and designs, wood finishes, a lot of oyster shells and driftwood, which used to be, I think, more reserved for the coastal things, but I'm seeing it in a lot of places now. It's in a lot of holiday. I always find that interesting because when I spent some time in Texas during the pandemic, just because I could work remotely, and I had this great little island we'd go out to, and I would collect these wonderful oyster shells, and then I brought them home and I decoupaged them and painted them and gave them away for Christmas gifts and everything. And so I just love the oyster shells. But I saw a lot of them, and that kind of goes back to that natural material. Plants, of course, still strong.
Yeah, really good.
So many plant products, which is fun because then you see all of the great plant containers, the pots and vessels for plants. Are fantastic. A lot of fun, catchy little, plant parent type things. Mushrooms still going strong. We saw that about a year or two ago, and they're still there. But I love that they're taking on a very botanical feel, a lot of with the botanical illustrations and that sort of thing. Green as a neutral. I saw green everywhere, and I'm here for it. I love green, but
that's
soft greens. Yeah, I saw it paired with that.
I'm just doing I just wrapped up Stephen Young's, and Glitterville and 180 degrees is within our umbrella. And the boys are coming out to set up the 180-degree pop-up shop. And Stephen Brown had the entire floor and walls painted green.
Oh,
so it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what he does.
I feel very justified that.
Yeah. So it's interesting to hear you say this now. And walking away, they were literally just finishing the floor yesterday. So I'm very excited to see what they do and hear this.
Harkens back to that nature piece that I think we're all craving.
Yeah.
Even for kids and baby, I saw a lot of forest and farm animals.
Farm. Thank you. I did a little mini solo based on just what I saw, because I was on a blackout in Stephen Young. Like, I wasn't allowed to film anything, and I was dying because Milk Barn's baby group. Oh my God. And then it rolled out, Elegant Baby was doing farm, and then Jellycat. And I was like, farm is like my favorite concept. So I love that you're reiterating that. Thank you.
Yeah. Love that. In jewelry, saw a growing handcrafted bohemian presence.
Like what kind of details?
Layered chains, tiny seed beads, upcycled brass, a lot of seed beads in both woven looks, like color block or fringe, with the seed beads, so pretty, in muted muted tones, but still like pops of, and I've loved this. And I know we've talked about this before where, like hot pink and neon pink, or, is a
Yeah.
lot of orange, thrown in there as an accent. And a lot of that was coming through in like the earrings with the seed beads, just because the colors are so great. They can be really colorful, but yet they still have like earth tones to them, and maybe it's just like the matted finish, but loved that. And then in patterns, still seeing a lot of dots in scallops, and checks. Checks are coming back a little bit more, and not really a
Like
buffalo
gingham?
check.
Like gingham?
Not so. Is gingham just like checkerboard,
Okay.
like a really basic check. And scallops used to be more, more of a southern touch, but I was seeing them, like Mud Pie had these great marble frames, with a scalloped edge. I think I included them in my story the other day. But they were just really classy because they were really heavy, thick white marble, but with a scalloped edge. It just kind of softened that,
Love
and
that.
just made them really, really fun, yet still a little chic with the marble. Even some scallop in the edges on some baskets, which,
Ooh.
a lot of baskets, in rattan and, seagrass baskets still, which goes back to that texture piece, that I saw a lot, because you can never have too many baskets, right?
No. 100% agree. It's funny you say the scallops is a southern thing, because now I'm thinking about it. I forget what the vendor's name is, but she did all enamel tin, and they were lamps and tables, and they were all in these gorgeous enamels over metal, and
Oh.
everything was a scallop edge. And I remember, I was buying for a store called Sweet XO, and everything was candy colored and bright, and it was all of that. But I remember looking at, like, not knowing if the scallop thing would roll in California. But it's nice to hear that it's rolling out nationally.
I think it's picking up a little steam.
It's very feminine.
Yes. Mm-hmm. As far as themes go, I felt like kindness was prevalent. And
so
I just saw a lot of just a lot of things, like, and maybe it was some of the more sentiment pieces, whether it was like, like in cards and journals, or, in wall art, like with words, but it was rare to see, pretty much any kind of a wall art with sentiments, would have a few pieces with something about kindness.
I love
And
that.
I think that kind of, and the mental health awareness really came to the forefront during the pandemic.
Thank
And
God.
I think our attention to it, is so important, and I hope it stays that way. Because that's a big passion project for myself, is just that awareness, and making that something that we can all talk about. And so I like seeing that, and maybe, and keep in mind, I'm just one person. So maybe the things that I like are the things that I notice. But I'm doing my best to tell you what.
Well, you see a lot
what
of
I
things.
like.
I think
Mhm.
anybody in the trade publication, anyone in the trade period, but you see a lot of stuff. I mean, all day, every day, what comes across your desk and emails and whatnot. So it's always, I love hearing somebody's perspective, like yourself, of what you see, because you're seeing it from a bigger scope, where most retailers, I'm looking for this. I'm looking.
Right. They're focused on their
style.
clientele. Right.
Yeah, our style
Yeah.
is this, or we don't do that. I mean, so it's always, I love hearing it from a bigger lens of what is. And I know for me, it's like, I base it on products I'm working with, as well as stuff that I love. But certainly after a while, you start to see a lot of the trend repeat itself over and over again. That's why I walk the show for a full day before I even write orders, because it's like, as I always say, it will reveal itself.
Yeah.
As far as what is trending. But I love hearing it from your perspective, because you see a lot of stuff.
Okay. Yeah. And while there's still a lot of like swear words on things. A few years back and maybe before the pandemic, like snarkiness was really a popular thing. And I didn't see that as much.
Really?
I feel like, well, there,
The
you
mean
know,
girl thing's out.
right. Mean Girls out, and even I feel like people are more into lifting each other up. Like even, in like the women centric type products and that sort of thing. I think it just all that's kind of how I came up with that. My feeling that kindness was prevailing as a
I
theme.
will say I think after, don't get me wrong, because I still do a lot of snark F-bombs sell sadly, but
Yeah.
it's funny, I've told this story before, is that, buying for the pharmacy, I went with F-bombs in the beginning. They literally blew out. Then I dabbled in some more. And then, like any good buyer, you follow it a little too far. And next thing you know, there's people in the middle of the pharmacy screaming, "This is why children shoot people." It's like,
Oh,
because this
no.
F-bomb. So I had to like, okay, we're going to take that back. And I went the full counter opposite and went to Jesus, but it was Jesus with kind of snarky, but also the inspirational lines. And that's one thing. It's like, I've shown it on my Instagram. People are like, "Do you think I could sell that if it has a cross on it or whatever?" I mean, but anything that gives inspiration, that gives kindness, that gives, like, even if it has like a little funny, like, "I love Jesus, but I cuss a lot." But that kindness thing, I think, because so many people being by themselves during the pandemic and being lonely, and certainly the mental health part of the picture of just suicide, not to go down that road, but clearly people don't understand what other people are going through. So I feel like the nice things, you can still have snark, but I certainly feel like inspirational items have a place. And I don't think they have to be all doilies and crosses and whatnot, but I think that there's a place for that. And I think it's needed, especially now with what I feel like society's gone through, God knows, for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes. Another big thing I saw was eco-conscious and sustainable materials. They were everywhere. In places and in product lines that I wouldn't have even imagined them. And I was so glad to see that. And I think that's part of the taking care of the earth part that we're all, that is just becoming more commonplace.
Like what? Give a couple examples.
Yeah, like post-consumer waste and plant-based plastics. Saw them on several different lines of things, like plastics that are made from like corn and sugarcane and wheat. And I love the look of them too. They kind of have a more matted finish.
Yeah.
Like
Not all shiny.
Yeah. Like again, Mud Pie, they introduced a new kids beach toys line, and it's all made with that biodegradable plant-based plastics.
I love that.
So when I didn't expect to see that there, so I was really pleased with that. And I think if you wanted to excuse me, look for products like that, you can find them now. Like if you're a retailer, they're becoming much more available in the mainstream gift world. So I was really happy to see that. And then plantable seed paper, that's a fun one for the gift industry, in both cards and envelopes, and like cards, like Seedlings Papery. She does great. Like she was one of the first ones to do that, Libby Lonzo, where you plant the envelope or the card, there's seeds in it, and it can grow. And I even saw it, and I can't remember the company, I'm sorry, that had it, but like the box that the product came in said, "Plant this box," it had seeds in it. So that was really cool.
With the eco thing, did you see a lot of, because It's been here in California. I've yet to see one. I know they're in neighborhoods like Silver Lake and Echo Park, the little more hipster, but the where you bring your own bottle and you fill it up with your soap or detergent or whatever. Did you see a lot of products where
Mhm.
the stores would sell it and then they can take it to these stores if they sell it, in fact, of the
Yeah, I didn't see any of the just, and I wasn't really looking for it. I just didn't happen upon it. I'm sure it was there, like the refillable bath and body stuff, but the refillable candles is a thing now.
Oh,
And uh,
I haven't seen that.
yeah, Greenleaf and Bridgewater Candles, they have a new line called Noted, and it's like little tiny wax pellets, and they have these kits. They're very easy to use. They demonstrated where like the kit comes with like this cool silicone mold that fits into your glass vessel, and you put like a wick in there. They give you the wick in the kit, like the refill kit, and then you pour in the little wax beads, and it burns clean, and it's easy to change out and put a new one in. um,
That's really interesting. I haven't seen
yeah,
that
it
at
smells really
all.
good. Yeah, and then the refills come in like a biodegradable packaging, like a bag with a pour spout
I
type of
love
thing,
that.
like for a refill.
Yeah.
So that's really cool, and I'm hoping that that takes off. They had a great presence there, so I'm sure we'll be seeing some more of that. But yeah, it's definitely becoming the new normal, I think.
I hope so. I mean, it back in the day, Fred Siegel, my mentor, our slant, he opened a third store was for Fred Siegel for a Better Ecology. And this is like, I mean, I was 27. I had my stores there at that point. And his phrase was reduce, reuse, and recycle. And we canvas bags that said that. And that's like how far, but this like where we are now is obviously so much further, but it still feels like there still needs to be more stuff on the market. And it's nice to hear more of it and things like the candles and what, 'cause
Mhm.
I haven't seen that at all. And that's like so
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about, you have passion projects and you touched on it a little bit about, because what I've realized with this podcast, and it wasn't on purpose, but somehow so many of our guests have ended up being somebody that gives back in massive ways. And like, I've always believed in giving back. I think that whether you're a large company or just a single, like even if it's time or money or volunteering or whatever it is, I think it's so important. So talk to me a little bit about what you do and how you give back.
Um, I have a couple different passion projects that things that are important to me. The one of them in this gift industry, which I just really love this community that the gift industry is. I am on the board for Gift for Life,
Mm,
and I love this group. And I love how it's evolved to meet the needs of the industry. Um, and I'm really thankful that I became a part of the board while we could still have our meetings in person, or we would have like at least one, if not two, big meetups where we would meet in person, and then at the shows, we host events. And the people that I've met on the board are just so great, and I just really treasure those relationships, because it's not quite the same now that we do all of our meetings in Zoom and
yeah.
everything, and that's kind of a bummer about it, but it's such a great group. And it was based 30 years ago, by founded by Peter Shaubin, to help the AIDS cause and finding a cure for AIDS. And we've sort of evolved a little bit in just the last couple years, like after the pandemic, to be a source for funding for hunger related causes. And everything is that we're raising right now is going to World Central Kitchen. So that is a really great great project. And I think people will start seeing, and we've developed some new ways to, to raise money. And I know you've had Cole on before, Cole
Yeah.
Doherty from
And
Dallas.
Matt talked about it as well. I mean,
And
it's
Matt, right. So
it's
no,
it's a
no stranger.
phenomenal. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the World Kitchen. They were the very first people on the front lines during the war, and they are still there, if I understand
Oh,
correctly,
yeah.
because obviously there's Russia is still bombing parts of that
Mhm.
country, and there are people that need to be fed and children, and I mean it's how much do you have a total of how much was raised from because I think it was the last gift show that I had Cole on and Matt on. I never
Yeah.
heard the final
Uh,
total.
And I can't remember I think he was on because I listened to that. I think he talked about like um uh Russ Jones from Ivy Stone and Doug Self introduced Gift for Life at High Point this last fall.
Yeah.
And they held a little event. It was supposed to be just a little mixer to kind of, because we've been wanting to include more of the home industry in with Gift on, for the fundraising. And of course, it wasn't just a little mixer. It just, everyone wanted to be there. And it was a fantastic event and it raised just a ton of money. Like I want to say like $30,000 like in one night.
Wow,
Something crazy.
amazing.
And yeah, don't quote me on that. I should know that. I'm like the board secretary, but I'm like peanut brain memory. So anyway, so that's going great, and it can always do better, but we're doing like QR codes where people can. I did that at our 40 under 40 event that I did at the Las Vegas market in the summer, where we were raising, we had our own landing page for World Central Kitchen for Gift for Life,
Oh, I
and
love
people could
that.
just scan the QR code and text to give. And that was something that was born out of the pandemic, and we're certainly not dropping that because it makes it so easy for people.
I love, it's funny. I said to Cole, it's like, as a retailer, I always knew Matt was involved in it, and I always knew, but I always knew back when they had the big night, the big event. But I never understood how to get involved. And that's why I had Cole on. That's why I want to talk to Matt about it. I love that you're involved in it, because I think that retailers, we are all in our own mind, like heads, and we're at the show and we're looking at stuff, and it's very easy to go by the signs. So it was this last show. It was really nice to see a lot more signs like right there. And maybe it's because I'm looking for them now, but it was so great because I think a lot of retailers want to get involved, but I think that, not a lot of the smaller retailers, it doesn't seem like knew how to get involved in it. So it's really nice to have another person talking about it, because I think it's so important.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just a great way for the industry to come together, I think. And that's something I think we're always looking for, is more ways to get right now it really gets the industry together, and the vendors and the manufacturers come together. And I'd love to see more retailers get involved,
Yeah.
and it's just a great way to meet people. I'm also working on with a new nonprofit for the industry, but I can't say too much about it. I'm super excited about it. And my role isn't officially defined yet, but I'm looking forward to rolling it out this spring. And it's something that's going to be more, it's very retailer focused, small business. And so stay tuned for that.
I'll have to have you come back on.
Yes.
Yes. Talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Okay, so we talked before and I skipped over the question, so I get to ask you. I always ask people two final questions at the end. One is, you're very busy, you travel, you obviously have a lot of balls in the air with the different publications. How do you find balance, and how do you find inspiration? Because they're very different, but they both feed somebody's soul.
for me, I like to make things. I like to create, and it's kind of just an extension of what I do for my career, I suppose. But I think it's different when I'm making things for like myself and my loved ones. Like I like to, art and crafts and sewing. I'm in my workshop here. There's 2 sewing machines over there and a work
Wow.
table, and I just love to create. Things. But then I also love nature and getting outside in my garden and being on the water in Florida when I'm there in the wintertime. And
Mm.
I love, that's really where I get a lot of balance and inspiration. And then, and the other big part of who I am too is I love to throw parties. I love to be with my family.
You have a brand new grandbaby.
I have a new grandbaby. He's so awesome. His name is
Congratulations.
Callum, and I just can't get enough of him.
God, he's so
Um,
cute. You posted a
yeah.
picture of him. He's so
I
cute.
warned everyone my feed
Oh,
would
he's
become
so
a baby
cute.
feed, but oh, he's great. So, and he's only about 10 minutes away. So that's perfect. And I love, like I love throwing parties for, my family. And right now, my current one I'm planning is my wedding this summer.
Congrats. I
So
think I saw that on your social media. Congrats.
yeah. So planning a little backyard soiree, very small, micro wedding, um, this summer in July. So
We got married in
um,
our backyard as well.
yeah.
It was no, I don't know if it was pretty micro, but really, I think it was bigger than my husband anticipated.
They have a way of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you people you love who've been around you your entire
Yeah.
life and seen you go through good, bad. And it's like, it was like, come on, just a couple more. And he's like, what happened to 25 people? It's like 80 people now. I'm like, sorry.
Yep. Yep. And I always, and this is, I don't know if this is good or bad, but I've I've shared my parties that I've thrown just in our magazines over the
Ooh.
years. Like, and it started back when I had my oldest daughter's graduation party from high school, and the time we were doing a feature in Stationary Trends called Event to Remember, and I worked with like a stationary person that I knew through Stationary Trends who did our invitations and some of the different party wear. And I guess when I'm exposed to all of the great stuff in the
Yeah.
party and stationery industry, I can't wait to use it. So I always like to hire someone I know, but hire a photographer to come in and just really take good photos because, and that's kind of my little hack for that, because then don't have to worry about it. And then I have good photos. I can use them in the magazine like I did
Smart.
with her first party. And then I also did that with the same daughter's wedding that we had at our house like 6 years ago. And we used the photos from that in a feature in Gift Shop Magazine about wedding products. And again, I was made aware of all these great, vendors and everything.
Oh
So
my God.
I was sure
It's
to
like
give them a shout
perfect.
out.
Oh my God, it's like the perfect. I mean, that's like the ultimate. I can't, okay, that I have to ask you then your grandson's first birthday when that comes up.
Oh yeah, I'm on it. Yeah, I've told my daughter I've got a couple themes narrowed down for her, and she's like, "Mom, I think they've had it with me." But yeah, and her baby shower, it was in. You'll see a few pictures from her baby shower in the Celebrations and Occasions magazine that
I
just came
love
out.
that. Okay, so my final question, and it's funny because this is a newer question. I used to ask everyone what their first job was and how old they were, and then I was afraid that everyone's getting sick of this question. But this question has been my favorite question because the answers that everyone gives are just unbelievable to me. So what is the best piece of advice that you could give any new entrepreneur or a retailer? And what is one of the lessons, because this podcast is stories and lessons from a life in retail. So
Mhm.
do tell.
Okay. Okay. So my advice, and I kind of have two things here. The first thing is due to my journalist roots. And that is to research and question the source of information that you're basing important business decisions on. Find the truth. Everyone is selling themselves today. And that's the business model that's been created by social media. So be an informed consumer. I just, sometimes I see a lot out there, and as an entrepreneur, I think you have to just do the research and make sure that you're informed. That's kind of a negative one. Anyway.
No, I mean, no, it's actually good because there's two things that come to mind. One, everyone and their brother is a personal coach. And two, obviously with the political landscape, you're hearing all different kinds. And I think that the research part of that is probably the best bit of information you could tell somebody, because I think everybody, everyone believes what they want to believe. And I think if people spent a little bit more time really kind of digging, there would be less arguments. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. And the thing that, and then some advice that I want to share, because I feel like it's the kind of, it's a piece of advice that, that I am really working hard to implement in my own life and, in my own career, is to mentor and develop talent to be your replacement. And what I mean by that is because as a business owner, there's always another big project for you to bring to life, because that's where your strength is. And I used to be one of those, I'll do everything myself kind of people. And, I would do it all, and it was keeping me from developing the new projects, because I would get so focused in on the deadlines and everything else. And I'm really striving to do that more, to bring other people up. And I have a great new managing editor now that is on board, and she's really making it easy for me to do that, because she's just so capable and gets it. So I'm really working hard to mentor her, and because I've already, now that I've done that and kind of let go of some of that control freak stuff, then I'm thinking of all these new projects that I can be doing and new ideas. And that's what really,
I think mentoring is so important, like that. That's one of my favorite things. I rarely work with people, but I've had a few interns, and I have somebody that I've worked with, Bert's, for years. And it's the best feeling and the biggest gift to yourself to watch that next generation or your next person down to watch them grow and expand and really stretch their wings. Like that has become such a gift. Like I can't even explain it, but it fills me up. And I love that. That's one of your,
and it's creating a legacy. You don't want all this, just to go away when you're done. You want it to carry on. And I think that's, I think that's the goal.
I love that. Thank you so much for your time. We have not met yet, and are you coming to Vegas?
I don't think so.
Damn it. I will meet you. Are you going to New York now?
No, but Sarah and Carly, my managing editor, are. So I will have to make sure that you guys meet up.
Sarah works with Amy from New York now. So
yes.
Sarah is doing the
she's doing the
takeover as well. So I will meet her then, because I'm doing the home category, and the tabletop category is my Instagram takeover.
Okay.
So
well,
to meet her.
Get her to be on your podcast.
I will. That is one of the things to ask her in person. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I'm so honored.
In person one day. And I like I said, I love your magazine, and I'm so grateful and so honored that you've asked me to be a part of it in the past. I really hope that continues, because it was so much fun.
Yes.
Thank you.
For sure. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.